everyone and welcome back to my podcast show. This is a video version also, so you can see me sitting here. I might need to show some things today, some drones and some gear stuff, so I thought I also do a video version. So this is the 12th, if you said it, it's just episode 12 of the podcast show. And it is way different if video is turned on. I'm always way more nervous if the camera is rolling and if the video is on. But yeah, thanks for tuning in today. It means a lot to me for those of you that are listening to this actually. I hope you enjoyed the last episode and I hope you got something out of it. Today I'm doing a Q&A. Yesterday I reached out on my Instagram story and I made an Instagram story where I asked you guys to ask me some questions, mainly about filmmaking and FPV drones and drones in general if possible, so that I can answer them here on the podcast and on this YouTube version of the podcast. And so this is a little bit of a gear talk, a little bit of Q&A, and I hope you find this interesting. So if you find it interesting, feel free to continue watching or listening. Let's now get straight into this. I'm now going to take up my phone and we're going to have a look at some questions and see if there's anything that might interest you guys out there, because that's the main focus here. So let's pull this phone out. By the way, if you don't follow me on Instagram already, feel free to follow me. It's at Hannes Engel, so you can see my stories and some behind the scenes of drone shots and all sorts of stuff, and my FPV journey on Instagram. So I asked for some questions. I was saying doing a Q&A on the podcast or on YouTube, both now, and I'm looking for some good questions, if possible FPV or filmmaking related, because that's what we do here. And thanks. Okay, let's see what we have. There are quite a few questions. I would say almost 15 questions. I don't know if I'm going to answer to every single question, but we are just going to start and I will pick the best questions, and I might have to show some gear or something, so I think video version is better for this episode. This is already the second episode with a video version, I think. I already did this once. Okay, first question that I see here, which I think is cool, is from Elisa Bafumo. How many times a week do you shoot photos outside on average? Okay, that is a very interesting question, because thinking about it, I don't know, it really depends. Sometimes a whole lot, sometimes I go outside almost every single day or every second day to take photos in the forest. But it's often just video, I feel like. Often I just go outside with my camera and shoot video and drone videos and behind the scenes YouTube videos, because I mainly want to make YouTube videos as much as possible. So oftentimes I forget about photography a little bit, but then if I don't do photography for, let's say, a week, I feel very, I don't know, I miss it, because photography is way different for me than filmmaking now. Photography, I don't know, I really like it and I should probably go more often, but I would say on average around 2 to 3 times a week I try to get outside and take some photos, and that can be anywhere, so at the skate park, in the forest, in the mountains, wherever I go I try to take at least some photos. Also recently I started to take some photos, or some more photos to make memories, and some more photos of me with my friends just hanging out and stuff like that, and not only Instagram photos or posts that I know do well on Instagram, but also some, I don't know, just other kind of photos that more of like could go in a album or something like that. And that's what I've been getting more into, also a little bit mobile more. I try to shoot some mobile photos and edit them on my phone. But yeah, to give you now an answer to your question, I would say 2 to 3 times a week. I would say, yeah, that's perfect. The next question is related to color grading. DMTO13. He's asking, totally unexperienced about color grading. Any tip or tricks? My color grade sucks. Yeah, color grading is an interesting part for both photo and video. It takes a very long time to learn, I feel like, and one mistake that everyone makes in the beginning, including myself definitely. I feel like now I'm pretty good at it, or after 3 or 4 years you just like find your own style a little bit and know how to do certain things. But in the beginning, you either try to replicate a certain style and go way too far with it, and it just looks hilarious, and when you're watching it 2 years after that, after you progressed, you are thinking how stupid you were. But for example, the teal and orange look, a lot of people like to use this extreme teal and orange, Sam Colder travel look, whatever you would like to call it, and you can easily go too far with that for both photo and video, and it ends up looking super strange. And then the next tip that I have in general for everyone that is unexperienced with color grading, don't go too far with it. I know that it's very hard because everyone makes this mistake, and I made it myself definitely a lot. You know, in the beginning it is cool to see certain sliders. If you move the clarity up a lot, you see how punchy it looks and it looks very dramatic. But in the beginning everyone goes too far and the colors just look so unnatural and so weird sometimes. I did it myself. In the beginning I just need to mention that I had this for photos. I had this face. You can also see it on Instagram, like 20 posts, where I took the green slider or just made all the green tones in the forest very green. I don't know the exact color, but they looked like this poison color, like very aggressive green poison color, and it just looked super weird. And now looking back, I need to search for that now so that I can show it. But that is the mistake that everyone makes. They just overdo it, and that's the worst thing that can happen, because if you overdo color grading, it looks super weird. And I would definitely, okay, I'm now looking for it. Here's my green addiction phase where I used too much green. As you can see, this was in 2018, so 2 years ago, June 2018. This was around 2 years ago when I was into photography for 2 years, maybe already, or 1 year. And I will maybe show the photo. And if you do listen to this currently, you should maybe switch over to YouTube if you want to see this. But I don't know if you can see, but the clarity is probably at 500%. The green tones look so heavy, and yeah, that's my one tip. Don't overdo it. Try to start by just doing a few small changes and try to learn how to use the curves. I would say that's also a tip. The curves are super important. Figuring out how to deal with the curves and stuff like that, that is way more important than bringing up the clarity to 100. So yeah, that's my tip for that. And you can also use LUTs in the beginning, definitely. They help in the beginning to get a certain look and presets. And yeah, why is your brother such a cool dude, asks Jakob Engel. He is definitely not. He is a stupid little kid. Okay, the next question, Josef Rehel is asking, is it hard to afford FPV drones? Do you work alone and pay for those drones, or does family help? Okay, FPV, I've made this video where I talked about how much it actually costs to get into it. It's a pretty expensive thing, or I would say it's similar to one DJI drone, but I have to figure out now more and more as I move forward in my FPV journey. I need to figure out that you need to always replace stuff and order new antennas and order new receivers and stuff like that, and props, and things break, and shipping, and you need to wait and do. And with a DJI drone, it's just you order it once and it's done. And now I have my FPV drone here. So for the podcast listeners, you can't see this, but for YouTube, so these antennas, this is already the fourth antenna, because they break over and over again. I don't know, whenever I crash it, always these antennas break. See, now we have this cover here. Here I destroyed the cover yesterday when I was flying outside, and I don't know, it just always keeps breaking. It doesn't cost that much. An antenna costs $2, 2 years, but you always need to order it and replace it, and I need to order some in bulk now, so 10 antennas, so I don't know, and the props break. And I made this video on YouTube where I showed how much it costs, and I think it was a pretty good video and it explained it pretty well. So at the end I came at something like 800 euros or dollars. That was what I said is the final price. And turn that on. And I still think that is very fair, and I think that is what you need to spend in order to get into this. Under $800 or $700, it's going to be very hard, and you might not find the drone that works good then and that actually allows you to get great videos. So $800 at least, that is similar to what this drone over there costs, the DJI Mavic Air. And I would say it's a super fun hobby. But now answering your question, do you work alone and pay for those drones? Yes, I bought all of this myself actually, so no one gives me $1 here, no one pays for this. I have recently sold all my camera gear, everything. The only thing that's still left is this lens here, the Sigma 18-35. I'm still trying to sell it on eBay or direct and through Instagram. And if you want this, contact me. But this is the only thing that I still left. I have sold everything. I have the VX, definitely, I'm not going to sell that. But then I bought the Nikon Z6 and I still made some profit. So selling all of this was, I got more out of that than the Nikon Z6 cost me. I sometimes do photography and video work on the side, and I earn some money from that. I work always in the summer somewhere, and I just have some money on the side that I can use and spend on stuff like this. And one thing that I would like to mention, and I've mentioned this a lot before, because people always, when it comes to these things, people often are so weird. They always try to judge you because you buy stuff like this. But this sort of stuff is my passion, and I'm going to invest in it because I like doing it and I really love it. And so I see no point in not spending the money here if I have it. And the thing that I wanted to let you know is, so a lot of other people in my age tend to spend their money on clothing or expensive shoes or, I don't know, drugs or alcohol or stuff like that. And I just don't find that to be a good investment for myself. For example, I don't care about clothing at all. I think the most expensive shoe that I ever bought was like 60 or 70 bucks. So I just don't care about that stuff. I just want to spend my money on stuff that excites me and that helps me to improve as a filmmaker and photographer. So I spent all my money there. And if you look at my spendings, what I spent, it's, I would say, 80% on filmmaking gear and the rest on just, I don't know, things that I need. But it's way reversed for a lot of other people. If you really want to do it, you're going to find a way, and otherwise you don't really want to do it, I guess. Okay, then someone is asking, Henry Easy, what's better between an expensive camera or some expensive lenses? So I think he means what is better, buying an expensive camera or expensive lenses. And I have a very straightforward answer here. If the camera can shoot 1080p 60 fps and has a certain quality and it is okay, I would say then lenses are way more important. Lenses are everything. And just if you ever used a crappy lens, and if you ever used a good lens, you know what I'm talking about. So using a good lens, like this lens is a super good lens. So I've used this with my old Nikon camera. And for example, my old Nikon camera was 4 years old. It was not the newest camera. It did not have 4K or any of that. It had no picture profiles, no 120 fps, none of that. But I used this Sigma 18-35 f1.8 zoom lens, and this is such a sharp lens and such a good lens, and I've created so much with it. And I just think, in the beginning I used a kit lens, and I just think this lens stepped up my game or my content so much, the things that I created. And I would say lenses, yes, you should definitely have a camera that can shoot at least 1080p, 60 fps and stuff like that and all that, but lenses are super important. So I wouldn't recommend getting a super expensive camera with a kit lens. And I maybe seem a little bit hypocritical right now because I'm bought the Nikon Z6 and I'm using the 24-70 kit lens now. But I feel like this 24-70 f4 is a great lens, and currently I want to save up money again, and then I may be getting, because I could also use this with the adapter, but the autofocus is not very good with this adapter and it just is so front heavy and so long. And so what I'm working towards, what I want to have is I want to sell this lens, and then with the money that I get from that, I want to buy a Nikon Z lens, prime lens, that is 1.8, for example, the 35mm 1.8. And I think that would be a great investment because that's a very sharp lens from what I've seen, and usually prime lenses are very sharp. So I would say get a camera that's pretty decent. I would recommend now the Nikon Z50, for example, which is a cool camera, I think, which doesn't cost too much, and then get a good lens for it. And that's maybe a good strategy. I hope you enjoyed it so far. Moving on to the next question, which is from Lucas Epta. Could you tell us a bit more about laws and rules you have to know when you're using drones? Okay, this is actually a super complicated topic, and a lot of people like to push that away and don't talk about it, but it is important and it is way more complicated than most people think. So drones have been around for 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, and as I've said before in some videos, I've been into this, or my father's been into this from the very beginning on. And in the beginning there were not a lot of laws or something like that because no one knew it. But then as DJI and these companies made drones more consumer-centric and just more available for everyone, I mean, I know so many people that have a drone now, it got a little bit complicated because everyone's flying. You are at a famous spot in the mountains, so you are somewhere in the mountains and then you see a drone, or you are in a city and you see a drone, you see them all the time. So it is different from country to country and the government decides on the rules. I noticed that this topic over the years got way more complicated, and for example, if you're using a Mavic Air like I do most of the time, this is my filmmaking drone that I recently crashed in the video. So if you're using this, the problem is now everyone uses this, for example, and a lot of people have this, and there are so many drones in the air. And I'm not exactly sure about that, but I think that this drone from the weight is under a certain limit, and so you can fly it without having a drone license. But I'm not very sure about it, you should check that yourself. I'm just always talking for Italy because I'm from Italy. It is very different in other countries. I know that, for example, in Canada, I think, they now already, you need a drone license, otherwise you can't fly with any drone, I think. But I would say in general, if you have a Mavic Air, you should definitely check, but I think I once read that 250 gram is the maximum weight that it can be, otherwise you need the drone license. And actually, my dad has a drone license. He has done his drone license like 5 or 6 years ago, and it is very complicated. It's more complicated than getting the driving license for a car, and it's just, I don't know if I would do it, because you have to pay a lot, you have to go to another city, you have to spend a week there doing a course. It is very complicated. Then you have the drone license, but you still need to do all the things that they tell you that you need to do in order to fly it. I think I heard once from my dad that if you want to fly it in a city, the police must lock the area where you want to fly it so that no one is there. And there's so many different rules, and it's such a pain. I would say it is almost impossible to get a license to fly in a big city. And I know that a lot of people do it anyway. I also fly this without having a license. But as I said, I'm not sure. I think that the Mavic Air, you can fly it without a license. And so the big problem is for me, or the big problem I think is that people fly over other people and fly in cities and where there are houses and people and stuff like that, because it's really dangerous. It's actually dangerous if this drone crashes. And I cannot talk too much here because recently I've also been flying it at the skate park. But I feel like now I know pretty well what I'm doing, and I would say usually when you're flying it outside, like I do most of the time, like 90% I'm flying it in the forest, in the mountains, and I don't think that it is a problem there, because I mean, if it crashes, as you've seen, it lands in the forest on the ground, there are no other people. And so I would say usually definitely check the laws where you are from. But if you're flying outside in the forest, in nature, I would just go for it with the Mavic Air. And yeah, that's just what I would do. And I know so many people that have done that. I've never heard of someone that got in trouble because of flying in the forest. But I've heard actually about someone who got in trouble flying in the local city here. He was flying, wanted to film something, I think, for an event with the drone in the city here next to my village. And that is a problem, definitely, if you don't have a license. But I just don't fly in cities, so it's fine. Then the next question is dedicated to filmmaking. How do you do smooth handheld shots? Okay, this is something that I wanted to do a video on since quite a while, because I've been training that and improving in that for a very long time. Handheld shots, it's been something that I always like doing. I never like gimbals. I've tried it before. I might get one in the future if I do other bigger projects or something like that. But other than that, I think for YouTube stuff and the kind of videos that I create till now, you just don't need the gimbal, especially with the way that these cameras work nowadays. So I had my Nikon D5300, which had no stabilization in the camera and no stabilization in the lens, and I still got smooth footage almost all the time. And people often commented how I got so smooth footage, and I simply trained it, and I just knew what I'm doing, and I used Warp Stabilizer, which I highly recommend. I talked about this before. If you're shooting handheld footage, I always try to get some movement into it. That's very important if you have the camera. I don't have a camera now anymore to show it, but let's say this is the camera, then you hold it like this, and you get some movement like this or something like this into it. Because if you do that, it is very easy to stabilize it in post. You're just going to Premiere or Final Cut, whatever you're using. I'm also well close to switching to Final Cut because I just can't stand Premiere anymore. It just doesn't work anymore here with my 4K drone clip, and it's so slow, and I might switch. Anyway, in Premiere it's called Warp Stabilizer. In Final Cut I think it's just called Stabilization, and you turn it on, and usually it smoothens out everything and it gives you perfectly smooth footage if you apply that. And I did that for all my YouTube videos back in the days. Now I often don't even need it anymore with this camera and with the Sony, because these cameras have such a good stabilization. For example, this Nikon camera has two stabilizers, one digital stabilizer and one in the sensor, something like that. And both turned on, it's just like a gimbal, it's great. I've tested that, and you just follow the subject, and yeah, it's just so cool if the camera has such a good stabilization. So if you have a camera with stabilization, I would just say try to get some movement into it. You should just try to avoid shaking the camera, I mean just don't shake it, and usually it works. What I often did definitely is filming on the skateboard, so when I follow someone on a skateboard, if we made skate videos, that was definitely a way of getting super smooth footage. Then I used this technique with the camera strap, so you use the camera strap of the camera and then you tighten it and then you hold it like this, and that creates a stabilization. Other than that, sometimes I used a tripod, so if you have a tripod and then the camera has some weight and is heavier, and then you can try to use that. I feel like the heavier the camera, the setup is, the better this works. But other than that, warp stabilize and stabilization and doing smooth movements with your hand, and you should have perfectly smooth footage. I don't recommend gimbals that much because I just think they're way painful to set up, or actually it depends on what you're doing. If you're shooting for an event or festival, you maybe set it up once and shoot all day long, and that is definitely great. But for YouTube stuff and stuff like skate videos, I don't think that it matters that much. And one more question dedicated to FPV. Would you recommend 5-inch or 3-inch drones for beginners? Okay, I've been reading a lot about this and I definitely made a mistake. There are two types, or mainly two types of FPV drones: 5-inch race quads and 3-inch Cinewhoops. This is a 5-inch race quad. The main difference is 5-inch race quads are very powerful, very aggressive, and flying this in the beginning, I had a lot of struggles with it. I'm now at a point where I'm pretty good at flying it. I can do certain moves and I can fly through or around trees, and I'm improving slowly every single day. It's getting better and better now every day. I also practice almost every single day, but I crash this a lot and it's very hard. It's just such an aggressive drone. I mean, if you're used to DJI drones, here you turn the throttle just a little bit up and it goes like zoom, and yeah, it is very aggressive. It's also pretty dangerous if you cut yourself in the fingers with this. And then when it comes to the filmmaking part, I would say if you want to do these mountain dives and you want to get these shots where you're diving down mountains, then this is perfect. Now on the other side, 3-inch Cinewhoops are smaller, 2-inch smaller. They usually have these protectors or whatever you call them around the props, and they usually look like they have these 4 things. They are slower, they are smoother to fly, they are not that aggressive, and I just think from what I've seen they are just a little bit easier to learn with, and you can get some more smooth shots and maybe fly in a house or in an old building. You can't really do that with this because this is so aggressive. And by the way, if you saw it, I also ordered a 3-inch Cinewhoop now because I just think that this was not a good move to start with this. So I definitely recommend starting with a 3-inch Cinewhoop. And I ordered from the same company, iFlight, the Green Hornet now, which will arrive in a week, and then I will practice a lot with that and leave this at home for a little while, and then once I'm good, I'm going to use this again. And I also feel like with 3-inch Cinewhoops you can get way cooler shots from what I've seen. You can get these smooth shots in a forest, maybe flying through trees, and you can film also some skate clips, and it's just better for filmmaking. I think this is more like a fun toy and you can definitely do cool stuff with it and film, but I don't know, this takes a lot of practice to get good footage with. And if you're just starting out, just get the Cinewhoop 3-inch, that's definitely a better choice. And then maybe upgrade later to that. I did the reverse, I started with this and then I'm now going to upgrade to a 3-inch or downgrade. But in the end I always knew that I want both, or that I want to use both drones. So yeah, I'm excited to get that drone, and I might do a live stream unboxing for that. Okay, then I have one more question, actually one in German and one in English, but they are very similar. And this one is by my friend Max Daniels, and he's asking, where do you see a career in photography filmmaking take you in the future? And honestly, it is like a very deep question, and I've talked about this before, and I just don't know. I just want to do whatever I like now, and I'm just going to focus on getting better at this, and I just don't think what is in 10 years or what happens in 5 years, because I just don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to finish school. I don't know what I'm doing. I just do whatever I like doing and what I feel like doing right now, and I don't know, I just focus on that. For example, right now I like to fly these drones and make videos about it, so I dedicate everything to that and focus on that, and I just go all in and try to be very good at this. And so I just making plans is definitely important, and often people are making plans without taking action, and for me the most important thing is to take action every single day and just sit on this computer every single day and edit videos and go outside and fly the drone and take photos and try new stuff and just try to improve in this and see. I feel like a lot of people overrate or overestimate, if you say that, how much you can do in 1 week. They think they can do so much in 1 week, but they underrate how much can be done in 1 year by just going small steps every single day. And I answered, why is your brother such a cool dude? Yeah. Exactly, he's a stupid, weird guy. I gloves, yeah.
But that's actually not true.
Which one would you rather like to fly? Mavic Air, smooth footage, nice filmmaking, or the FPV iFlight Nazgul 5?
I would just take a helicopter.
I have finished this now and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I answered all your questions. I hope I can do this in the future again. And now to end this, I want to do an experiment and see if I can fly the Mavic Air inside this room, and maybe we get this rollo up, and then we will fly to, and then we will try to fly out of the window and get the shot like that. And so that's, if you're now listening to this on Spotify, iTunes or whatever, Apple Podcast, then you should now switch to YouTube to see these last 5 minutes, because they are going to be dope and they are going to hopefully include a second crash, or actually hopefully not. So let's get this, let's set this up.
He hopes to.
I'm doing this all for this podcast. Also, I don't recommend the stuff that I do on YouTube and here to try yourself, because most of the things that I do with drones are actually pretty stupid and cost you a lot if you crash it. You need to turn all the sensors off if you want to do this. Now I'm going to open this window so that we can fly outside, but first, let's see. That is definitely a stupid idea. Now let's open this and fly it outside.
Gegangen.
Schon?
Oder das war's mit Konzert.
Zum Stehen.
Das ist Konzert.
Jetzt zum Stehen.
Warte mal.
Der Herr ist ausgeliefert.
Stimmt?
Ja.
Genau, nicht verkehrt, Lehrer. Voll.
Nein, ich will nicht so doof. Oh, du. Das ist echt oder was? Logisch.
Was war jetzt?
Thanks for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple Podcast. I will hear you then in the next one. Peace. Tschüss. Don't try this at home.